Hey guys, we're going to be talking about basic methods now in processing. Basic methods in processing. Okay, so I have a brand new file open here. So I haven't saved it or anything. First thing I'm going to do, always, as always, and I tell you guys all the time in class, put a comment up at the top for your name, the date, and your period. After that, we're going to be putting everything in methods now. Okay, the first method that we're going to put is the setup method. Okay, the setup method is going to run one time at the beginning of your program. So I'm going to put a comment here, and I'm going to say that this is the first required method. It's called setup, and runs once at the beginning of the program. So here's a setup method. You know that it's a method by the open and close parentheses. You also want to have the open and close curly brackets. So curly brackets are going to be very important. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have them in the right place. And the computer kind of shows you that if you put the cursor after this curly bracket right here, it is going to show you that this one matches up with this one here. If you put the cursor after this one up top, it's going to show you that's the closing bracket that matches with this open curly bracket right there. Okay, so you're going to make sure you have the brackets in the right place, otherwise you're not going to be able to run your program. So in the setup method, you are going to put all the code that is going to set up your project. Okay, you want to change the size of the window or the canvas here. You maybe want to change the color of the background. I'm going to change it to white. Maybe you want to use the smooth method here, smooth out all your shapes. And before, we're going to get into this in the next unit, but I'm just going to kind of foreshadow that unit here. Here is where you would initialize any variables that you're going to use. Initialize any variables, okay? And we'll talk about that in the next unit. But just know that that's where they would go in the setup method, okay? The second required method is the draw method, okay? Has to be in your program from here on out. This one is called draw, and this one runs 60 times per second while the program is running. Okay, so I'm going to call it is called void draw for right now. All our methods are going to have this void in front. See, the setup method has void and the draw method has void. That means it doesn't return anything. It doesn't return any information to you. It is just doing what's inside that method. Okay, it's like a command. Just if I say stand up to somebody, I just mean stand up. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to return any information to me. You just got to stand up. So it's just like a command. Okay. So we got the draw method here, and we'll come back to this draw method in just a second. But down below the draw method, you're going to have any programmer defined methods. Okay. So there are two steps to using methods. I'll put that as a comment here. Two steps to using methods. One is you have to define what the method does. And then two is calling the method or using the method, in other words. Okay, so we are just going to leave that there. Two steps to using any method. You have to remember that. But down here we're going to make a method, and I'm going to make a method called tree. So this is, I'm just going to put programmer defined method to draw a tree. Okay, make a real basic tree. It's not going to be anything extravagant, just an ellipse on top of a rectangle to make it look something like a tree. So remember, you got to have that void keyword first, and then you want to make your methods descriptive, okay, of what they are doing. So I'm going to call mine tree. What does it do? It draws a tree. Pretty descriptive. If you see that it has a method tree, well, you probably know it's going to do something with a tree. Probably draw a tree or something like that. So that's exactly what this method is going to do. Remember, you always have to have the open and close parentheses there, and your curly brackets, again, very important. So now we have 3 sets of curly brackets in this little small program. But when you get up into bigger programs, you're going to have more sets of curly brackets. So you got to make sure that you line them up properly and that you are practicing putting a closing curly bracket every time you put an open one. Okay. So here's our method called void tree. And inside the method is going to go the body of the method. The body, in other words, is the instructions to complete whatever task you're trying to do. Okay, so here we're going to draw a tree. So I'm going to put a rectangle here. The size of my screen is 500 by 500. So I'm going to put it kind of in the middle of the screen. So 250 and 300, and I want it to be 50 pixels wide and 100 pixels high. So I got my code for rect right there. I'm going to run it. And I don't see anything. Why don't I see anything? Well, this part right here is the first step to using methods. Define what the method does. This is defining what the method does. We still got to do step 2, which we got to call the method. Now we're going to call the method inside the draw method. And the way you call the method is you put the name of the method, and then the open close parentheses, and then the semicolon. That's it. Right now our methods don't have any parameters, which is nothing inside the parentheses. If we did, then the parameters would go right here inside the parentheses. You would also have to put the parameters inside of these parentheses. But for right now, we're not having any parameters. So I'm going to take this out, and we're just going to have the open and close parentheses with nothing inside. So now I run the project, and bam, I got my rectangle right there. Okay, looks good. Now I can see it because I actually called the method. I did step 2. Now I want to put an ellipse. Okay, so we put in the code for the ellipse. I'm going to make it at 275, 260, and then 100 pixels by 100 pixels. 100 pixels wide and 100 pixels high. So there it is right there. All right. So looks good. Now I want to fill it in with some colors. So I don't know what the color is for brown. I'm sorry, I don't know what the code is for brown. So I'm going to use the color selector, and I'm going to look for a brown that I would like to use. Okay. So that's a pretty dark brown right there. Looks good. Further we go down, it goes to black. So that's a good color brown. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put it inside the fill method right there, just like that. Close this guy. Let me run it again, see what it looks like. Now I have a brown trunk and a brown top of the tree, but I don't want to do that. I want the top of the tree to be green. So I'm going to put in the code for green 02550. And there, I have a pretty nice looking tree. Okay. Now, it is working. Everything is working fine. Let's say I want to put something else. Well, let's say I want to put in some grass. Okay. I'm not going to put the grass in the tree method. Okay. I'm going to make a separate method for grass. So here I have the void keyword. Don't forget the void keyword. Very important. And I'm going to call my method grass. Okay. I'm going to make a rectangle along the bottom of the screen. So the X is 0, the Y is going to be 400, it's going to be 500 pixels wide and 100 pixels high. Let's see what happens here. I don't see any grass. Well, I haven't called the method. Don't forget to do step 2. A lot of people forget that. Go back up in the draw method and call the method that you just made for grass. So here's my grass right here. Okay. That looks perfect. So that is how you set methods up. Here, if you wanted to change the color of the grass, let's say I want to fill it with a different color green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the color selector. I'm going to look for a darker color green for the grass. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it inside the fill command. Now my grass is going to be a different color from my tree. See how that works? Good. So one thing I haven't done is saved my file. So I want to do that now. I'll show you guys how to save it. Go to File, Save As. Okay. Here is the folder that pops up. And I have, on my desktop, I have a folder called Processing Work, where I save all my processing stuff. And here it is right here. And I'm going to show you how to save it. So you save it with your last name first. Then you put an underscore. This one is method sample as well. So I'm going to put method sample 2. This is method sample 2. When I click save, and now it's in the folder that I want. You see it has Beck method sample up here, method sample 2. And also at the top of the window it says Beck method sample 2 as well. Okay, so that is how you separate into methods. Okay, the first required method is setup, runs once at the beginning of the program. This is where you put your size, background, maybe you want to change the modes that you're drawing in for rectangle and ellipse. And you initialize any variables up here in the setup method. The second required method is the draw method. It runs 60 times per second, and we'll see how that works when we start using variables in the next unit. But just know that it runs repeatedly while the program is running. Here you want to call any methods that you make. These down below the draw are going to be the programmer defined methods. One I have for tree, which draws a small looking tree on the screen, and I have one for grass, which actually draws what looks like grass on my canvas. Okay, so that's how you set it up, and you run it and it looks all nice and neat, and now it's organized. So if you want to go and make changes to the tree, you go straight to the tree method. Okay, let's say I want to put another ellipse on my tree, so I want to make a bigger tree. So I'm going to start it at 280, and I'm going to go to the Y is going to be let's try 250 and 100 by 100. I go ahead and run that, and now it looks like a little bit bigger tree. I could probably move it up a little bit more, so let's move it up here. Another thing I want is I want to turn the stroke off, so I don't have the outline of those shapes. Okay, so it'll look more like a tree. So here we go, right here. Looks like a little bit bigger tree. What you can do is fill some ellipses on the side here, around the top, so you can make it look like a regular tree. Okay, but that's how you set up methods in the processing program. Hope you guys understand. If you don't, then you can still ask me any questions that you need. But try to look at this video. It does explain it hopefully pretty well. So any questions you can be answered just by looking at the video. Alright guys, happy coding, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.